Hello, my name is Amanda Hyde. I'm the owner of Stitch Noir, an indie dye business based in Hamilton, Ontario. I dye yarns and fibers for hand spinners, knitters, crocheters. And today, for the Binbrook Fair, I decided to create a short video to show you how you at home can dye some wool with your kids and just have a fun afternoon doing it. Dyeing can be incredibly complicated if you make it so, but there's also some very fun, easy, safe ways to dye wool. For this demo, you will need a baking dish, some Kool-Aid, packets without sugar added, some yarn, ideally with a high wool content or 100% wool, some gloves, handy so that you don't have colored hands, some cling wrap to put over the dish as you put it in the microwave, and the microwave. So when you're dyeing wool, an animal protein fiber is what we're talking about. So acrylics won't dye, plant matters are not going to take this dye. So your cottons, your linens, your bamboo. So specifically wool, silk would work as well, alpaca would work, anything that's animal based. I have some yarns here that I got actually at Michael's, my neighborhood Michael's, and all of these would work. So here is a DK Superwash from Patton's. We have a roving here, which is sort of a single ply, very thick, fluffy yarn. The Patton's Classic Wool Worsted, that is actually colored. So this one would be interesting to dye because the gray will affect how the color looks after you're done. And the yarn I'm actually working with today, I don't have the ball in front of me because it's soaking, but it's this one, the Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. It's 100% wool. If you have something that's 80% wool, that will work as well. Just keep in mind that the extra 20%, say it's acrylic, that won't take the dye. So it will affect how the color, how saturated the color is. But yes, so we need wool to start. That's one thing we need. When you're dyeing yarn, what you need is you need your dye, you need an acid, and you need heat. If we are dyeing in a more complex manner, like I do for the fiber community, I use various acid dyes, and I use citric acid, food grade citric acid. For the purposes of this video, we're not going to do that. We are going to replace the acid dye and the citric acid with our choice of Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid works because the food coloring in it works as a dye color, and it also has citric acid in the package. So what you're looking for if you're buying Kool-Aid is you want the packs that don't have sugar in them. They're just the citric acid in the food coloring powder. And these will work just as well. They will be color fast, and they will make some really fun yarns. For commercial dyeing, I typically use my stove, I use the oven, I also have restaurant food warmers, large stainless steel trays, but again, for this video, you can use a bakeware dish like this. So this is what I'm going to use for the video. The yarn in here is the Patton's worsted that I said I had ready. So this was soaked in water. And I soaked it for, well, it's been soaking for a while, but you can soak yours for 20 minutes minimum, just to make sure that it soaks up all the water and it's quite wet. For, again, purposes of simplification, we're going to be using the microwave today. So you soaked your yarn, you have it ready, it's now wet. We're going to put it in this dish. The next thing you're going to need is some trusty gloves. They don't have to match. And I'm going to start with my lemon lime Kool-Aid. That's the one I'm going to start with. So there are many ways that you can apply this Kool-Aid. You could have a lot of water in here and put the Kool-Aid in, let it swish around in the water, and it will travel across the yarn and it will move more than how I have it. I have the yarn very wet. I don't have any extra water in here. And for my purposes, I'm just going to sprinkle some of this on there, and I'm actually going to mush it in with my fingers. And you can see the green already starting. See that? The other fun thing about using Kool-Aid is the smell. So all I can smell right now is lemon lime, and it's pretty fantastic. So I'm going to mush this in. So it's creating kind of a nice pastel-y green, you can see that. So I've mushed that in that side. Now on the other side, I think I want to go with, there's a pink lemonade. Do a little bit of pink, assuming it's pink. I think it will be pink, yes. So I'm mushing it. I'm actually going to flip it around. I'm going to put some pink on the other side too because it didn't get all the way through. And again, I'm just pouring it on there, but you can choose to put the color wherever you like, however you like. So we're very pastel at the moment. I think I'm also going to go with a mixed berry. And because this pink is almost disappearing in here, I'm going to just stretch the blue over on top of it because blue and pink, or blue and red, usually make a purple. Okay, so we have a bit of purple happening. Hold this up so you can see this interesting mix of colors happening. We got the purple because the pink and the blue mixed. We have some interesting sort of tealy, bluey greens because the blue and the green mixed. And then we have our green and we have our blue. And the next step to this is adding heat. As I said before, I'm going to use the microwave and we will see what happens. The nice thing about using Kool-Aid is because it is food safe and it is simply Kool-Aid, something that we drink, using it in your microwave and with your baking dishes is safe. If you were using acid dyes like I use on a day-to-day basis, you would have separate microwaves, separate dishes, separate everything to use with your acid dyes so that your acid dyes don't mix with your food. But in this case, we're okay because we're using Kool-Aid and it smells amazing. So this is going to go in the microwave. I've covered it with plastic wrap and I am going to set it for 2 minutes and then we'll see what we have. Okay, so my yarn was put in the microwave for 2 minutes and I've taken it out and I've let it cool. Cool enough that I can handle it. It's still a little warm because I want to test and see if it's done. What I mean by that is the magic of yarn dyeing. So when the yarn is done and it has soaked up all the dye, what you'll find is that the water left in the dish that comes off the yarn is clear, like magic. It sucks up all the color and it leaves the water clear. Clear enough to the point that I can use it for another dye job afterwards and conserve water that way. Let's take a look, shall we? Squeeze the water out of the yarn, and we do have the magic happening. Clear water. Well, maybe a little gray, but I think that's actually more just from the yarn itself. But there is no color in this water. It is in the yarn. And here is the yarn that we have. It's actually quite pretty. Yeah. So there we have it. So I'm going to hang this to dry. And once it's dry, it is ready for knitting or crocheting or weaving or whatever you would like to do with some hand-dyed yarn. It also smells like Kool-Aid.
Dum da 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 dum da